So, uh, what's up, everybody? Y'all know me. So this is what we call the After Action Report. I'm Lumumba Moulton. Everybody calls me Moon, president of Nola Naga. I also do a zillion other things over here. We have my good brother Shaq. Talk to people.
What's happening, family? Greetings.
And we have Trinell. Trinell is one of the subjects that we talked to for this. So, hold on 1 minute. That has to go. So Trinell is one of the people that we talked to for this. So, an after action report is basically when you have a plan and you want to assess afterwards how that plan went. You want to talk about what you did right, what you did wrong. You want to go into what you learned and what you're going to do different next time. So those are all the things that we wanted to talk about. And one of the reasons that I wanted to do that, and y'all going right now, Brother Shaq. One of the reasons I wanted to do that was because, I've been in New Orleans and I've been teaching emergency preparedness for a number of years, ever since I came back from Chicago. And, it was really just kind of upsetting to me that, when I would go through emergency preparedness and I would teach people about storing water, being defending yourself, being responsible, things like that, that people would, everybody seemed to forget the lessons from Katrina. And it struck me that we never really analyzed it as a community. That as a community, we never sat down and said, what happened? Why did it happen? What happened right, which wasn't much? What did we do wrong? And things like that. So I wanted to start that conversation, and I want this to be an ongoing conversation because every year we have hurricane season. And just like Katrina happened, Ida happened, and things like that are going to continue to happen. So I wanted to start that discussion. So, I've been having conversations with people in the community who helped out, like myself, during Ida. And so I'm going to share some of that. But I also wanted you all, anybody watching, and I sent this to all of the Nola Naga members, but also I sent it to some other people who were interested. So I want you all to be in the chat. And if you have questions, put them in the chat. If you have comments, put those in the chat. If you have experiences that you experienced on Ida, also put those in the chat. So, the question you should be asking yourself is, what was your plan? What went right with your plan? What went wrong? What did you learn from this emergency? And what did you learn, and what are you going to do differently next time? So, Brother Shaq, tell what did you stay during Ida? What happened?
I did stay, and I stayed with an enormous amount of confidence, really because of your leadership. We spent a lot of time really looking at emergency preparedness throughout the year, and years really, but. A lot of the very practical things that you had talked about, shared with us as NAGA members around making sure you had water, going to the grocery store, and every time you go, get another pack. Just things like that ended up being very, very helpful, having batteries. What I found is that for myself and many of the other folk I've been able to organize with, through NAGA and beyond, were seemingly prepared for this. There were very few things. There wasn't the pandemic that a lot of people had at the end trying to go get supplies that weren't available. People kind of already had it, and I think that level of confidence and the collective confidence was helpful just in creating an environment where support was needed, but it was minimal. Mm-hmm. People were also very specific about the things they didn't have,
right?
And so I thought that was really helpful. And again, I would attribute that really to your leadership and making emergency preparedness a priority for us, because it isn't a matter of if something happens. Mm-hmm. It's always when. It's always when. And And this time I could say more than any other time, I was a lot more at ease personally, which, freed me up to support people. But, people really seem to have their stuff together in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I was talking to a brother today, and, he was, it was a group of us. He was basically talking about how, I always keep emergency preparedness on his mind, but it's hard to get into because life is so comfortable. And in order to start, in order to get into emergency preparedness, in order to start different things, you got to kind of be uncomfortable. And I talked about, how comfortable I was during this emergency. I knew I had what I needed. So to make myself uncomfortable just a little bit before the emergency, and 90% of the time is going to be, comfortable times. But to just make myself uncomfortable a little bit, to buy, food, to store water, to get a generator to have gas, that little bit of discomfort made it so that, this emergency really wasn't that uncomfortable, and I was able to help other people. But one of the first things that happened is that, people lost the ability to get help, to call police, to call EMS. So we are going to talk about that in a minute with Trinell, who's next to you.
Good. Yeah, I guess that, some of the things that people don't think about is what about these other services as part of the comfort knowing that if something happens, there's an agency I can call, taking that kind of a thing for granted. And in the wake of this, when communication went down, that wasn't an option. And so, Trinell, you were part of the dispatch and so forth. What did you notice in terms of what happened? Because many people don't really know. They don't understand. They just know, sure. One day there was just nobody to call, and you don't think, we take those things for granted, and not, so could you say more about that?
Well, we're about to show an interview that she did.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to go into that. So here we go. So we're here with Trinell. Trinell has been helping as a volunteer through the whole hurricane, helping to feed people, helping with safety, helping with updates. Tell them what you do, Trinell.
I am a dispatcher and an EMS dispatcher.
Right. So you could not evacuate during the hurricane?
I could not.
And why was that?
Because I am an essential employee, and we have to stay and make sure we're here and ready and we show up.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about 911 during the hurricane and after.
So during the hurricane, the phone lines went down.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, there was no way for the community to contact us for emergencies. After the hurricane, the phone lines were static. They would go down, they would come up. Our system that we use on the computers would go down, come up. Our radio systems was going down, then coming up. So it was a lot of work.
Okay, so for a regular person, in the middle of the hurricane, they call 911, what would happen?
They will be on hold until the phone lines come up. And if you had an emergency or anything like that, you will have to wait.
What about in the day or two after, if you had an emergency you wanted to go?
So a day or two after, it was better, but it definitely wasn't functioning 100% like we're used to. And, we were backed up on calls. Some calls were holding.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was tough for the average person. If you needed, police, fire, EMS, there's a chance that you were going to have to wait maybe a day or two to get that help.
Okay, so what type of things were they answering right away, and what type of things were they not answering? What type of things, if you had a problem, might take you a day or two to get help?
So on the EMS side, if you hurt your leg or if you're feeling kind of sick, but nothing too serious, those will hold. Mm-hmm. Usually before Ida, we'll get to you as soon as possible, but they would hold for a very long time. On the police side, if you had a theft, like somebody broke into your car or something like that, then your call could be holding for 2 days before you even get the help you needed.
What if somebody came in my yard and took my generator?
that will also be holding. Especially, we had a lot of people trying to steal generators. That would take some time, uh, especially if it's not like a life-threatening situation. Those are going to be on hold.
Okay, so some of the strange things I heard about, and so I guess you could confirm or deny what kind of calls y'all got. People getting robbed in line for gas.
Yes, we not us, but the city over. I don't know if you heard the story, but in Metairie, someone was shot waiting for gas, and they were looking for the person, and that becomes a serious issue where, gas is essential product, and you have a long line, if you can imagine, like cars piled up block, and everybody's waiting for gas, but for somebody to, I don't know, be in a rush, pull out their gun, shoot somebody else, it was dangerous at the moment.
So what kind of calls were y'all getting that you during and after the hurricane, or that were directly related to the hurricane, I guess would be better?
So the stranger calls we got that we weren't really getting too much before is looters. We had a lot of looters, especially at the Walgreens, the Walmarts. You know, we even had somebody looting a hair store, and those calls became more of a higher priority because that involved multiple people where it can escalate further than it needed to be. So we had a lot of, we're still dealing with looters.
So I guess to wrap it up, is there any message that you would like to give? Is there anything that you think could be a takeaway for people from the emergency that we just went through?
Yes, the citizens, if you can, evacuate. Like, I say evacuate, don't worry about what's going on here, because staying here was hard. And if you can't evacuate, prepare water. If you can get a generator, get a generator. Make sure you're able to protect your family. Make sure you have enough medicine. Because if the emergency services can't respond to you, you have to help yourself. So somebody.
Thank you so much. Thank you for helping the community like you to doing since the hurricane and before. Thank you. So,
Wow.
right. So, one of the things, again, like I said, the kind of the first thing that happened during the storm was that we lost the ability to call help, any help.
Yeah.
And it stayed like that, not only during the storm, but in the immediate aftermath and possibly a couple days after.
Right.
So, one of the conversations I always have with people about security, about your family being your responsibility, and that's not only responsibility to feed them, clothe them, house them, but also to protect them and to care for them if they're hurt. And I saw a statistic recently that said that Black children having and I could be getting this wrong because I'm going by memory, but the Black children are 47 times less likely than white children to get CPR when they need it. And that is because our community, a lot of people in our community don't know CPR. So I had started a program where I was going to, one of the NAGA members is teaches CPR. And Trinell here also is certified to teach CPR. But I was going to have a NAGA class, but right now my goal is to open that up to the community at large. So I want to get young people especially, people, and by young, under 25, I'm thinking, who are interested in learning CPR, first aid, and stop the bleed, and sponsor 5 people is my goal, to sponsor like 5 people to take those classes and get that certification. And that's one of the things I'm trying to do. But yeah, security. I mean, you in this, you call the police for probably a day or two after. nothing would happen because because of the aftermath of the storm, because a lot of things going on. So, what's your take on that?
Well, I guess with respect to emergency preparedness, security is part of that, and that security is our responsibility at all times. It's not the police's responsibility; that's our responsibility to secure ourselves and our families. So in a situation where there isn't anyone to call, whatever we've learned is what's going to save our lives or not. That's why this is not something that is reactionary, but something that we do all the time. Like you said, the brother put it, you put emergency preparedness on folks' mind. Security is an aspect of that, but it's an important aspect of that. And even though I think it's important to consider, like yourself as a dispatcher and other first responders, police officer, fire personnel, are people. They're people in New Orleans, and they were caught up in all of the same foolishness too. That they didn't, we have family and friends that community that do those jobs, and they didn't have support. I think that's what this exposed, that you really are, on your own, and that you can handle that. That's the other part. Right. You can handle that. You don't have to be codependent, but you do have to be prepared for it. Mm-hmm. So as a dispatch person, I know this is not like Zoom, where you were able to look at folk. All the work you do is blind. What is some of the, because folk, you're getting the worst kinds of calls, and people are calling you at the worst of times. What kind of instruction and support did you get with respect to relaying good information to these people in terms of what they can expect with wait times and triaging and all of that?
So what we understand is whenever we get a call, it is that person's worst day of their life, right. And we get that, every call that comes through, even it could be something minor of, I'm in a car accident, no one's injured, but my car is damaged, yeah. That's your worst day of your life in your reality, So the best thing we could have done through Ida is try to keep people calm and try to give them instructions to help them through the situation as much as possible, especially if it wasn't life-threatening. If it's something like, I'm just not feeling well, I have no power, it's hot. Well, it's not life-threatening, but let me see what we can do to help you, But if it's something where, people is having trouble breathing, and of course during Ida, we have a problem with oxygen tanks because power is down and that's less supply there. So it was triaging what's the most important, how to help these people, and hopefully the people who are at the top of the list can help themselves as well until we can get to them, Yeah. And that's important. You have to learn how to help yourself sometimes, especially during this time.
Right.
Right on.
So I wanted to talk. Did you have another question, bro?
No, that was perfect. I mean, I got a lot out of that. My takeaway from that, and I think folks that were listening, is that even from the people who fill the calls, spend your time in times like this to learn to do for self, because some of those calls really don't ever need to be made.
Right.
Yes.
There's a lot of things that we actually can do for ourselves. And I think that's what I'm saying, in times like this where we're not in crisis, to focus on emergency preparedness, the full scope of all of those kinds of things. So I just appreciate you as a person who feels the calls, bringing humanity to that and saying, as another person, what let's think about what you can do, because there's nobody coming.
Yeah.
There's nobody coming.
I was going to talk a little bit about my preparation, and just to kind of prompt people to think about how they prepared themselves. I made sure that the tubs were full of water, and I'm doing this in no particular order. Made sure that the tubs were full of water. On the East Bank, even though they said that our water was good the entire time, we know that the Sewage and Water Board dumped a bunch of raw sewage into the Mississippi River. But, they told us the water was good the whole time, but I'm glad I still had bottled water. But on the West Bank, some of those people had to do without water for a few days. So, when you fill a tub up with water, it is not necessarily to drink, but you need water not only to wash your body, but flush toilets and things like that.
Right.
So if some of those people on the West Bank that lost water did fill their tub, I'm sure they were glad they did, and people who didn't, I hope, learn that for next time. And, I hope you all are commenting in the meantime with some of your ideas. The other thing I did was take stock of everything that I had in the house, food, took out all the firearms to make sure that they were available and they were clean. Took stock of water, where I had water, how much I had. And, and I don't have my preparations written down. There was a lot more than that. Made sure everything was charged. I actually have a lot of radios that I wound up not using. And my idea with the radios is if any of my neighbors stay, that, when communication goes out, my neighbors can say, hey, this is how we doing, we need help, whatever, because a CB radio doesn't go far. So one of the things we need as a community is ham radio. We need people who can do ham radio because, that travels a lot further. But, I have just not CB, but just the walkie-talkie radios, which go a couple blocks. And, that's mostly for my neighbors. But most of my neighbors left, so I wound up not using. But making sure that was charged. Now to talk about what happened that I didn't expect. Like, I'll be honest, I didn't expect to help me. I woke up the morning after Ida, and first thing I did when I saw the power was out, I couldn't use my stove, was I made a rocket stove, which I really just did it because I'd always wanted to try it. and I'll show that video in a minute. So I made a rocket stove, put on some chicken sausage and some pancakes.
Yeah, pancakes.
And I sat on my porch eating pancakes and chicken sausage. It felt good. But as I saw my neighbors walk around, I realized that they had hungry people out here. Everybody don't know how to make a rocket stove. So that kind of started me on the path of helping people out and feeding people. And, just thinking about that something as simple as knowing how to cook in an emergency. A lot of people didn't know how to do it. And even if they did have a grill, their charcoal might have got wet, or they may not have had charcoal. A lot of people don't store charcoal. I got bags of charcoal. I have probably 6 different ways to cook food in an emergency, and a lot of people don't have one.
That's right.
So that started me feeding the community and helping out. And
can you say more about you feeding the community? Exactly what? Because I thought I saw you were cooking every day. Is that right?
Every day.
I saw you cooking Sunday, Monday. Is that right?
Yeah.
I saw you cooking every single day. You started off early in the morning, and you would make runs to get supplies, and make sure you kept supplies. And you had all this food that I think initially was yours, and folks started donating.
Yes.
And they saw what you were doing, which I thought was a beautiful thing. But you were on that grill every day.
I was on the grill every day. So what you're watching here is me making a rocket stove. And essentially, you're using cinder blocks to create a funnel for the fire to go through, goes up, and it heats. And to be honest with you, number one, getting that fire started was a little harder than I thought. You see here, I just gave up on the chisel. But yeah, so right before the storm hit, I had made a bunch of macaroni and cheese because I knew that the power was probably going to go out. So I said, well, I may not be able to use the oven. So, as I'm watching these hungry people, I'm like, man, I got like 5 pans of macaroni and cheese
emergency prepared
in the other room. So I had some chicken, so I threw some chicken on the grill, make some macaroni and cheese, and put on some greens. I had cans of greens, and that's just kind of how it got started. And that night, someone came and donated some food, so now I got a bunch of food to cook.
Right.
And So cook that the next day. So every day, it pretty much wound up me waking up in the morning, going to the store, and Slidell sometimes.
That's right.
Whatever store I could find, and it wasn't close, and getting prepared to, feed my neighborhood. And so that's, when I finally got the water boiling, which I was surprised. So you see, you kind of put the sticks in down there, the fire comes out in the front is actually awesome. And the fact that I can make it work, it kind of surprised me to be honest with you. And those are the pancakes. I didn't show me making the pancakes.
Quick thing. Andrew W. said you can also make a rocket stove with a log or any scrap metal. There's a lot of ideas on YouTube.
Yes. He's absolutely right. And I got that idea off YouTube, but rocket stove is not as much about what you make it with as it is the engineering dynamics of that airflow going in and the fire coming up.
Right.
And so there's a lot of different ways to do it. And I would actually absolutely suggest to everyone that they go on YouTube and look up different ways, because when I woke up in the morning, not only did I have a bunch of cinder blocks, but trees was down, so I had all the wood I needed.
Right.
And and people are looking at, people are used to using the stove. You can't use your stove, but you got wood everywhere on the street.
Right.
So you got to use what's available to you, especially in an emergency. So that so knowing how to make a rocket stove, and I actually didn't really know. Again, I had seen the instructions, I knew I had it, so I just went for it.
Well, you had a brother that we all know, who Michael Sage Pellet, who's no stranger to making something out of nothing.
Right.
Particularly what he's done at Lincoln Beach. And if you've had a chance, to go out there and see our brother, it's just, his leadership is also incredible. He's made a lot of things out of absolutely nothing, which is an inspiration to all of us, in times of crisis and also just in regular times. And I think you had a conversation with that brother, right? We're going to see kind of what he was doing in the storm.
Exactly. So I'm about to show. Michael. So Sage Michael. I met the brother a couple years ago. I wanted to check out Lincoln Beach because I heard about what he was doing out there, and my sister C Freedom and some other people was like, "You got to talk to Sage Michael." I met him, and I wound up actually camping out there, and he gave me a nice camping spot. It was awesome. He told me to watch out for the alligator. We didn't see the alligator.
Alligators by name,
Oh my gosh.
But the brother stays out there with alligators. So he's a tough brother. So yeah, we had a conversation, and I'm gonna go ahead and show the people that conversation. This is my brother Sage Michael. So Sage Michael, a lot of people told me that I needed to meet him before I ever met him. Like, people were telling me about him. He almost single-handedly brought Lincoln Beach back, and I'll let him explain what that is for people outside of New Orleans. But it was a big part of Black culture in the city of New Orleans that was taken away from us, and this brother worked to bring it back. But I've also, seen him tirelessly work on a lot of things around the city to help his people, his culture. So I'll let him explain who he is and what he does.
Hi, I'm Sage Michael. I'm just a son of New Orleans, and basically, I just try to do all I can do for the Black Indigenous people of color in New Orleans to make sure that we're able to live and enjoy the city that we built, and in a kind of way. And one place of that of very significance to Black people in New Orleans is a place called Lincoln Beach. It's a 17-acre beachfront that was closed in 1965. And that, we want to bring it back for our community because this is something that's much needed in so many aspects. And I just led a community cleanup for that site over a year and a half ago. And we're advocating for the comeback for the community, by the community, because together we are strong.
So during Ida, you were one of the first people I saw online, and to be honest with you, I felt really good to see so many people in the city, so many regular people just taking it upon themselves, just seeing a need and feeling that need. So one of the things I saw you doing was bringing back gas and taking trip after trip to bring back gas to the people. And I tell you, one thing I realized that gas and ice are worth more than gold after an emergency. And so you taking all of those trips to bring back gas was amazing. What made you start doing that, and how did you see that need, and how did you decide to fill it to help the people?
Yeah, first of all, shit, I needed a battery. My battery went bad in my vehicle, and the only place that I could get was in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And on my way there, I saw, well, before I left New Orleans, I did have a full tank of gas. I was thankful for that. So it's always good to keep some fuel in your tank. I never really do that, but thankfully, that was excellent. I knew I was good on that. But when I finally got a jump to start my car, I knew I was good with that jump to go get my battery. And on my way there, I saw an empty gas station because in New Orleans, the gas station line was horrendous. And that I took a picture and people were like, hey, bring me some fuel back. And, and of course, I saw the need. And it was nothing but a little ride up the street, a little hour and a half, hour, something out the street, little playlist. So I enjoyed that ride back and forth. So it was a pleasurable ride. I didn't have anything else to do but to help out people. And just to do that, it was a beautiful thing. I was just ready to serve our community.
How many times did you drive back and forth every day getting gas?
Oh, it was like one or two trips. It went from started from like 25 gallons to like 100 gallons. A friend let me borrow his truck and a diesel truck, and that helped out right there. And and that moved like a nice bit back and forth at least a couple of times a day. You got to get the gas cans, purchase the gas cans. You got to fill each gas can up, load them up. Then you got to go to each individual and fuel up their vehicles or the tanks or the generators. And you move on, So it's a little process, and all safety. You know,
So what did you learn that you would take into the next hurricane or the next emergency that you would do differently?
I think definitely what I would do. I would definitely stock up on fuel. I definitely want to stock up on fuel. I think that either I would have a plan for evacuation or a plan for bunkered it down. I think I would have those two solid plans in place. I would think that matters. I think I would definitely try to get a more education of our water systems and the threats to our environment, and get a more education of our ecosystem, and how can I better sustain my businesses, my homes, and my vehicles because of the risk that we have with living in this area, because of our flood and tornadoes at that. And I just have to make sure I'm more resilient, more sustainable with my dwellings, my physical dwellings, and my finances to be able to sustain a hit where the economy collapses for a moment.
So what do you hope that the people of New Orleans got from this event?
I'm hoping the people of New Orleans got together, that we have each other's back, and that I see that more than now than before, where we all just waited on a government entity to do for us. I think that you had a resiliency exhibited throughout this. I think you had people who definitely wanted to evacuate, and people definitely wanted to come. But I think the people of New Orleans need to demand better from their leaders. When you see these situations in our community of these long fuel lines, we are a oil producing state. There's no reason why that you have citizens that service the oil industry in energy industry in Louisiana, in New Orleans, and we don't get our fair share for its money,
Right.
or even access to the things the refineries are located in Cancer Alice, where more black people are at. So you have all these people, making all this money, extracting for our community, but time we need them there in without a doubt, because unfortunately, though I knew as I was getting that fuel, I was reducing alleviating some of that stress at those fuel lines. And I knew I couldn't do it all because I had so many requests come through, but unfortunately, frustration is met at some of those fuel lines. And I think someone lost their life in New Orleans and someone lost their life in Shreveport. So me making those fuel lines, I was just trying to save lives at the same time.
So it looks like online, following you, it looks like you have some new programs that you're working on, some new things you want to do. Let people know about that, and also, of what message would you want to leave them with?
Yeah, so I say this, you got to have readiness, you got to have resiliency, and you got to be able to respond. That's the three things that you have to do year round with your life situation. Those principles right there. The next thing I'm about to do, because I've been getting a lot of supporters dropping me donations, and I appreciate that. And I want to be a good steward of the funds. So I've been doing a lot of work in New Orleans. Now I'm gonna take my relief on wheels, I call it now, and I'm going to be moving to La Place, where a friend of mine lost his house. Harnville, the matriarch, my aunt lived. I'm going to see what's Harnville, and I'm gonna work my way down south as far as Grand Isle as I could go. I'm going to strategize and see where's the source of fuel I can get to try to bring fuel to those people, possibly back and forth to those communities because they're going through this worse than what we went through this time. So the experiences I learned here, the experience I learned in Katrina, and all the other with God, the inspiration that God gave me, I'm going to try to see how I can help those people along that journey. And I just want people following me along that journey. I'm gonna be planning that next week, and I look forward to doing that.
Thank you, brother. And I appreciate all you do. I appreciate what you did with Lincoln Beach, and to see you step up, during this event, during Ida, it was empowering. It felt really good to see, the regular people who love this city, like yourself, take responsibility and just step up and help without money, and I know you probably, like me, started off spending money out your pocket. It was nice for people to see what you were doing and to help you and to bless you. But you started off doing this out your pocket, and that says a lot. So thank you. I appreciate you.
This right here separates the man from the boys.
Right. All right. So, again, Sage Michael's a brother who has consistently done a ton for this community. He's a tireless warrior, I would say. And he don't care who he got to take on. If he see wrong, he's gonna do it. I was very impressed watching him every day driving out and back with gas cans, and he went through the same thing I went through. And when I say he went through the same thing I went through, he went through watching a movement build and people helping. We went from him, putting stuff in his car with gas to somebody basically saying you can use this truck as long as you want.
That's right.
To people donating, but it started with just the money in his pocket. So he didn't start like I'm gonna get to borrow a truck out of this, so I'm gonna get people to donate money. He started just getting gas and giving it away.
That's right.
And that's amazing. So
to that brother's heart, man. It's the big-hearted brother who loves his people.
Yes. So that's so again. So what we're doing here is really a after action report, and I want to do this a couple more times because there's some other people I want to talk to, but I don't want these meetings to be 2 and 3 hour meetings. So we're going to kind of start to wrap it up. Is anything that you all want to talk about or want to say before we do that?
Well, I mean, a couple of things. First of all, again, your leadership and influence in how things went, particularly with Naga Group and folk who are also connected to Naga that may not be direct members, but those of us, who in Naga, who our families, and really taking care of our own neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying, and understanding how to do that in an organized way, and really helping the folks who were there, who did stay, gain a sense of their own power, and also supporting the people who were gone, who were concerned about their property and all of that kind of thing.
Right.
And then looking at there's some good things in the chat in the comments. People talking about cash on hand and how to barter and that kind of a thing. Because maybe you might want to speak to that as well.
So for the barter, that was interesting to me. The hardest thing to come by in this emergency was gas and ice. So it was hot, and I've been right now hearing the numbers, and Trinell can probably talk about this, of the people who died from the heat after the storm. So I would like to think that some of the things I did may have helped some people from getting into that space. And I at some points I was going online begging for ice, like anybody who has ice, please bring it by. And I was giving away cold water because it was hot. But the other thing, like you said about cash on hand, that you could not get gas if you didn't have cash. The gas stations that were working in the city were not accepting cards, and that goes for 2 days ago. I got gas in Kenner, and they weren't accepting cards. It wasn't nothing but cash. So in an emergency, you need to keep cash, and that's important. And that's one of the things that I always try to make sure I have cash on hand. I absolutely made sure I had cash on hand this time. And what was the other question that you brought up?
Well, the cash on hand, and in the absence of cash, I guess, and even with the cash, the bartering and how best to barter things to barter. You said yourself, gasoline and ice were the things.
Right. So that was my all time. So so interesting. A gentleman drove up and he had one bag of ice, and he says, "I heard you needed ice." I said, "I absolutely need ice." And he gives me his one bag of ice, and he says, "Do you need more?" I said, I need as much ice as you can give me. And he said, "Well, my truck is on E." I looked at his gas thing, his truck is on E. He said, "I would bring you more ice. I have more, but I'm not going to be able to go home and bring it back." So we traded gas for ice. And, when it comes to these emergencies, those are the kind of bartering, so you're going to need things of value.
That's right.
So he had ice, which was of value to me. I had gas, which was of value to him. And we made that trade. And so I got ice to, continue giving water out to people and, keep things fresh. And he got gas to get his truck moving. And it was a good trade.
Right on.
Yeah, definitely.
Right on.
So those are some of the things that you don't think about until that we should be, that we're talking about now. And that's the reason, but that I didn't think about before this happened. I had 1.5 cans of gas, so I had probably 8 gallons of gas, and now I have, I don't know, 50 gallons sitting out there.
That's good. That's good. Also to add to that, to be able to do it to look out for your neighbors. So if you're making a gas run or ice run, try to get it for the block. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Try to, because one person can go do, and it don't have to be the same person every time. So we don't have to burden nobody. You know what I'm saying? Everybody can get in on it. And if you don't have a car, then to consider, all right, well, I might need to put some money out here for this. Just to be thinking about that. We could do that without the rest, though.
Yes.
So we can develop that skill before we have to have.
So one of the things that helped, and I'm sorry, Janelle, but one of the things that helped was people coming in town from out of town. If it's an emergency and you evacuated, but you're coming in to check your property, you get people up, find out what they need. I had People's Legal, which is one of the businesses I deal with. They contacted me and they brought me in ice, gas, anything else I needed. So I'm very appreciative of them. I had neighbors who came in and did the same thing, checked their property. They took my empty gas cans and brought them back full. So, those people who are traveling in and out, if you're doing that, you need to help your neighbors. Trinell, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say with keeping the cash on hand, maybe this just comes from my profession, but you also have to think about how much of a lifesaver it is, because going through what we went through, security systems going down. So if you have these gas station or these stores that are allowing you to use a debit card or credit card, this is the best time for scammers to come in and get into your cards and get into all that stuff, you know. So keep the cash because I'll tell you, we had so many fraud calls come in on our side right after this. So keep that in mind.
Okay, so you know, we're gonna wrap it up. I had one more video I wanted to show. I got a email from a friend of mine from out of state who had evacuated, and she wanted me to check on her cousin who was stuck in a house with no resources. So I went out there, and it was all the way out in Mishu. I was surprised, number one, that they had so much water out there. I was glad I could help the brothers. I don't have them on video, but I have the video of Mishu and me going out there to help them. Are there any more questions that we might need to answer before we leave?
Andrew W. wants to say something, if he can be unmuted.
Okay, go ahead and unmute Andrew.
All right.
And I'm not going to be able to hear you, Andrew. So, you know, so I would, whatever you say, I would be getting later.
Let's see.
As he's getting ready to do that, there was this other question, and you may want to speak to some basics and just the beginning steps of becoming, you know, somebody who is emergency prepared. Seems to be something that folk would like to know about.
Okay, is Andrew talking?
Yeah, he said he doesn't have a car, and then he stopped. Hold on.
I'm not going to be able to hear this too much. So if Andrew wants to talk to me directly, he has to put it in the chat, or we can talk later. I apologize for that. We just not set up. We just not set up to do that, which is why we're using the chat.
Maybe if his contact information, we can get that and follow up with him, because whatever he's saying.
Okay, I'm gonna put it in the chat.
I'm sure he's not the only one with that scenario.
Andrew, if you want to contact me, you can email me at nolanaga@gmail.com. NOLANAAGA. Is he still talking?
No, he said that's okay, but he'll message you.
Okay, I apologize, brothers. We weren't set up for that. We were set up to answer questions in the chat. But Brother Shaq, you had.
Well, yeah, it was just the last question, and it may even be alluding to what Andrew's talking about. Is how does one, you know, what in the beginning stages of becoming an emergency, a person who's prepared for emergencies? Because with all the things that you know, I know you weren't born knowing. So that means you learned them. Right. And you learned them, and you've been able to teach people, but you learned them, and now we've all learned some things. And you know, again, probably something along the lines of what Andrew was talking about, but just an entry point for folk to be prepared, more prepared for next time.
Yeah. So when I was about 18, and to be honest with you, I really don't know what came over me, but it was one day I thought about it, and I just said, you know, one day I'm going to call the police, or I'm going to call 911, and either nobody's going to answer or nobody's coming. And what do I do then? And that kind of set me on a journey of trying to learn to take care of myself, because, you know, realizing that no one else was going to be there. And, you know, over the years, I really just developed a philosophy of self-reliance and tried to share that with the community. And that's that, you know, you have everything is your responsibility.
That's right.
You know, if this is your family, this is your, you know, in my case, this is your wife, this is your children. You have to feed them, you have to clothe them, you have to house them, you have to protect them. And if they're hurt, you have to take care of them. So if I don't know CPR, if I don't know first aid, how am I going to help my family members if they're hurt. If I don't know self-defense, if I don't know firearms, how am I going to protect my family when they need to be protected? So that, set me on just trying to learn as much as I could. And I've gone to survival courses, read books. There's a training around the country, and for some reason, New Orleans doesn't do it like they should, but it's called CERT, C-E-R-T, Community Emergency Response Team. And it was started in California in response to the earthquakes. Started in LA, teaching people, and the philosophy was first take care of yourself, make sure you're all right in an emergency, then make sure your family's all right in an emergency, then make sure your neighbors are all right, then your community, and spread out from there. And so, I took those classes when I was in Chicago. And my sister actually took them in LA, and I know some people in Atlanta who've taken them as well. And I've actually had conversations with different people in the city of New Orleans about why they don't offer these classes to the mass of people. And I've never gotten a good answer. Most people don't even know about the program, which is weird because it's a nationwide program given by FEMA. But that is a good place to start. But I've taken, private classes as well. Is there anything else that?
Yeah, Andrew W. He typed what he was saying. He said, "I was just saying that I was prepared to stay here because I didn't have a car. I consider myself somewhat of a preparer with beans, bullet, and band-aids. But what was surprising to me was when it came to evacuate, the stress made it so difficult to think about what to pack. I couldn't figure out what to do. So while I was evacuated, I made a list of everything I wish I had brought. And I suggest everyone also does the same thing, whether you're bugging in or bugging out."
That's good.
Thank you, brother. That's an excellent message. So one of the things that I do, and I know we've kind of talked about it, I do emergency preparedness workshops. And in emergency preparedness workshops, like you said, we talk about bugging in and bugging out and what you need for both of those scenarios. And you have to be prepared to do both. You have to be prepared to stay in your home, but you also have to be prepared to leave your home. Every time you do it, you should take stock of, what you should change for next time. And there's a thing called a bug out bag, and I know a lot of people know, but a bug out bag should have everything you need to grab and go.
Yep.
And you're never gonna have everything you want in that bug out bag. There's always gonna be some stuff that you wish you had, and there's always gonna be some stuff you're like, why did I take this? So, which is why we're doing this after action report, because every time you do this, it should be a learning experience. Every emergency we have should be a learning experience. So, if there's nothing else, I'm just gonna show the video of me headed to Mishu, and then we're gonna cut out. But again, I have more interviews that I'm gonna do. I want this to be an ongoing discussion because I want us to learn from this. I'm going to be doing more emergency preparedness workshops, and Nola Naga is also going to be doing more as far as reaching out to the community. And I want to talk about sponsoring. Like I said earlier, I want to sponsor at least 5 young people, so 25 and under, to learn CPR, first aid, and stop the bleed. And I'm going to pay for it. And so I want to put that out there. If you are interested, email Nola Naga, NOLANAAGA @gmail.com. And I'll put it at the bottom of the screen later for a replay. But just email Nola Naga and let us know you're interested, because I think it's important that that we know how to do first aid, CPR, protect ourselves, everything for ourselves. So do you all have any last words that you want to say?
No, I think we good, man.
All right. Well, thank you all for attending. Look for other invites, because we're going to continue to do these meetings, and so that we are prepared for the next one. Thank you for joining in.
This is their livelihood. We're in the height of shrimp season, and they're not going to be able to get out anytime anytime soon. That was actually an interesting situation. They were able to free this boat. Bojo is the name of that boat. We were on it while they cut the pylon with a chainsaw to try and get it. It was high-sided on that pylon.
How, the other thing too is where do they get gas, and
right,
where do they take their catch when they come back with it?
So speaking of fuel, this is Joe's Landing. It's one of probably about 3 locations down the Barataria Waterway that you would be able to get fuel, and you can see that it is wrecked. And then the other, Jean Lafitte Harbor, is the largest spot to get fuel. I spoke with Captain Shaw Cuevas there, who owns the harbor, yesterday. He tells me that he's got probably about 1,500 gallons of fuel that he would be willing to give, maybe 15,000. I'm not sure exactly what he said. A huge tanks of gas, but he can't. The rigging is messed up, so they need to figure out a way to get that. And he said he would just give it away at this point to folks who need it. There's plenty of people that are using boats. The roads are impassable because of the mud, because of the water. But he says, here's the thing about this area: we still have roads. We just call them bayous. So, but that's the thing. They need gas, they need fuel. And then, you're speaking about Entergy just a moment ago, that we don't have those restoration estimations for the bayou parishes, for those areas. And it's because the infrastructure is just obliterated in some of those places. So it's not just, here in New Orleans, so sometimes people I know out there feel like we may talk about New Orleans in the metro area a lot. There are a lot of people here that need that information, obviously, but those lines are still up in a lot of places. So it's really more about making those connections, restoring the lines that may have been down in these areas like St. John and Terrebonne, Lafourche, Lower Jefferson. They are St. Charles as well. The lines are just.
So I'm out here checking on somebody, so I'm really just doing a wellness check. I did not realize parts in the east were so flooded. So couldn't bring my car down. So I had to park my little car. I mean, the water's not that deep, but a lot of times when it floods, manhole covers will come up. And last thing you want to do is run your tire into an open manhole cover. Last thing you want to do is step into an open manhole cover. So you got to be careful. You got to pay attention. But yeah, it's what it is. The other thing you got to worry about out here, I know people think it's a game, but it ain't. Alligators, water moccasins, and you got to worry about that out here on a good day. This is not a good day. All right, I'm at the spot. I'll talk to y'all later. So I just caught up with the young brothers that I was came out here to check. They out here with no food, no water, and they got 2 dogs. So I'm about to help them with that. Got to hike back to my car. So yeah, it's early. So I'm headed to the store to get some supplies. The donations that people have been sending, I'm so grateful. I'm humbled. It is absolutely going where it's supposed to go. I'm gonna help these brothers out in this situation. If y'all wonder why I don't have a lot of footage of people taking food and me helping people and all of that type of stuff, man. I got pride. Just because people are in this situation where they need help, doesn't mean that they're not prideful. And they, a lot of people used to working for their meal, and right now you can't. So, I'm not helping people and putting them on camera or anything like that. I'm talking to y'all mostly just because I want anybody who's kind of in my situation who can help to do the same thing. You know, and there are people all around this city doing just that. And I'm proud of New Orleans. I'm proud of the people. And I love New Orleans. I love the people. Because even in a situation like this, you know, where you got to hike through the water to help somebody that you really don't know, it don't matter. We're going to do whatever it takes. Y'all have a good day.